Welcome everyone to this third in our series on DISC training. This is DISC 301, and we're going to talk about celebrating team, and your trainer today is Shirley Voorhees. She is our certified master trainer in DISC training, and my name is Cheryl Lee Davis. I'm the Vice President of Women's Connection, and we're so excited to have you for this third training session. So Shirley, get us started.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us for our last training call on the DISC model of human behavior. Surely you are beginning to see and recognize the patterns that we've been talking about over these last few weeks. It's always been interesting to me how once you do see them, you see them everywhere. I tell people who come to my training that they will never watch TV the same or read a book or interact with someone else without seeing the patterns. I remember watching TV one evening, I don't know, it's been a while ago, when a commercial for yogurt came on. It was a mother and her daughter sitting on the patio eating the kind of yogurt that comes in one container, but it's split. It has fruit on one side and yogurt on the other. The daughter had already mixed hers together and was eating hers, but the mother chose to eat hers first with a bite of fruit and then with a bite of yogurt. When the mother observed the daughter's behavior, she commented that she was eating it wrong and insisted that the daughter eat it the proper way. It became a bit of a conflict as to who was right about the right way to eat it. Well, I just had to chuckle when I saw it because I immediately recognized the mother's temperament as being a C and wanting things to be correct, and then insisting that her daughter comply and do it the right way. It was clearly a matter of preference, and that was the whole point of the commercial. You could choose to eat your yogurt whichever way you wanted. But as we learned last week, most conflict starts as a matter of preference, which is our preferred way of thinking or acting. On our last call, I reviewed the DISC model of human behavior in case there were some on that call who had not been on the first one. But because we want to allow some time today for discussion at the end of this, we're going to do things just a little bit differently. At the end of this session, we'd like to hear from you how this information has helped you and give you time to ask some questions. So if you think of something while I'm talking, just write it down so that you don't forget it when it's our time for discussion. As Cheryl said, our topic today is celebrating team. And this is the definition of team that we will use today. It's two or more people working together to create something bigger than they could have individually. As part of Stonecroft Women's Connection, you're part of a team that works together to encourage other women to pursue a relationship with Jesus Christ. It's your common mission and goal. Now, the way each of you goes about attaining that goal will be different depending on your preferred way of doing things. I think in our first session I used this quote, "If I understand you and you understand me, doesn't it make sense that we could work together more effectively?" The answer, of course, is a resounding yes. But here's what I know. We tend to judge and label negatively what we don't understand. DISC is not meant for us to label or pigeonhole or put anyone in a box. It isn't meant for us to go around saying, well, you're just a D, so you're harsh. It's also not to be used as an excuse for poor behavior, like, oh, I'm just an I and I'm always late, so you'll just have to forgive me. So it's not for labeling, it's not for making excuses, but it is simply a common language by which we can understand each other better. By now, you probably have a pretty good idea of what personalities are present on your planning team. So today I want to help you understand a bit more of what each one of them brings to your team. You know, it's just human nature to focus on the negative behaviors of people. But we want to begin focusing on the strengths, because that changes our whole perspective of someone when we can see the value that they bring to our lives rather than focusing on the things they do that irritate us. So as we always do, we're going to start with the D, dominant, direct, demanding, decisive, determined, doer type. Remember that they are outgoing and task-oriented. Their mindset is all about get it done, make it happen, play to win. They're emphatic and they're on a mission. If you have a job to be done, a D is a self-starter. So really all you have to do is tell them what needs to be done and then just get out of the way and let them do it. They're not intimidated by problems because they see them as a challenge. And Ds are great problem solvers. They will go over, under, around, or through whatever obstacle appears because they are determined to move ahead. And they will do whatever is necessary to achieve the goal. They will not give up. In fact, that give up is not even in their vocabulary. They're the kind of people who are willing to charge hell with a water pistol if necessary. Ds can also complete amazing amounts of work. They like to work hard and play hard. So they are extremely valuable to your team because they will work tirelessly to help achieve the common goal. The I, inspiring, influencing, impressionable, interactive, impressive, and involved type are also outgoing, but remember, they are people-oriented. So they like to be up front, and their focus is on fun and excitement. Actually, fun is their middle name. Their optimistic attitude makes them fun to be with, and their happy disposition helps them get along with almost everyone. They get great joy from creating an encouraging and enjoyable experience for other people. They love talking to people and being involved in a variety of different activities. Because I's tend to have a shorter attention span, it's really difficult for them sometimes to stay with a long-term project until completion. So they do their best with short-term projects and assignments. Since they're not at all intimidated about speaking or being in front of a crowd, let them shine in that way. They have a flair for the dramatic and enjoy being in skits or bringing some type of levity to your meetings. So give them opportunities to express themselves. And because I's rarely meet a stranger, they are great in a hospitality type role or as a greeter. Making phone calls is also something that they would be good at because they love to talk and interact with people. The supportive, stable, steady, sweet, self-sacrificing, and often shy S-types on your team are also people-oriented like the I is, but they are on the reserved side. Their focus is always on the team. And their theme is all for one and one for all. They like to provide whatever support is necessary to complete the job. If you want to know how your team is doing, just ask the S. She has her hand on the pulse of the group and can tell how they feel about things because she typically has taken the time to talk to each person and find out. They offer a great deal of stability to any team. They are warm-hearted and patient, and they like to bring a sense of peace and harmony. They are gifted in giving encouragement and helping others feel welcome and valued. While that I type likes to be up front, the S type prefers working behind the scenes and away from the spotlight. They also prefer to work at their own pace and will keep going like that tortoise in the fable until they finish what they start. The reserved and task-oriented C is cautious, calculating, competent, conscientious, contemplative, and careful. Their mindset is really a series of questions. What is the plan? Have you thought this through thoroughly? What is the purpose behind this? They are committed to doing things well and with excellence. C's also like to follow rules and procedures, so they're going to be the ones who will say, what does the manual say about that? Is that something we're supposed to do? Actually, they're the ones who've probably read the manual through cover to cover, and they can tell you what it says without even having to look it up. They are also highly focused on details. They don't miss a thing. Everything they do is thought through carefully, and there is a logical reason and plan behind it. I was once on staff at a large church here in the Kansas City area as the support person for the youth pastor and the minister of worship. I hired on in October, and they were already into the full preparations for a huge annual Christmas production. I was learning a new job and having to learn some software programs that I was not familiar with, all at the same time that all of these projects for the production had to be managed. It really was a daunting task. I never was so thankful in my whole life for a C as I was then. The woman who preceded me had detailed lists for every task that needed to be done. She had lists of names and phone numbers for people who could be contacted for things like nursery duty, parking attendants, musicians, drama, all of that. She had thought through and planned for everything. All I really had to do was follow her plan, and it was awesome. Quality and guidelines are vital to C's when they're working on projects. So even though they can sometimes be sticklers for the rules or procedures, let them do what they do best to help keep you on track. Their cognitive skills allow them to think of ways to improve an idea or a process, and they will go to any length to achieve excellence. As you think about your team, it may be helpful to realize that there are 4 stages of team development. This was published by Bruce Tuckman in 1965. Perhaps you've seen it before. The first stage is forming. This is that polite surface interaction that takes place when a group of people first come together. And by the way, these 4 stages happen in marriages, workplace teams, and anywhere you have people working together toward a common goal. So this first stage is sort of the honeymoon period. People generally have their best foot forward and tend to be fairly accommodating in this stage. Then we move to stage 2, which is the storming stage. This is where the honeymoon has started to wear off, and you begin to see people's differences in opinions and ways of doing things, and it can start to be very irritating. I remember this stage shortly after I got married. My husband was always so particular and neat in the way that he dressed, so I assumed that he would be that way in everything. What can I say? I was young and naive. Well, then I began to notice that he left the cap off the toothpaste, his clothes didn't always make it to the hamper, and my knight's shining armor was beginning to tarnish. And that's kind of what happens in the storming stage. Stage number 3 is the norming stage, where you begin getting past some of the conflict and start accepting some of the differences. So the final stage is performing. In this stage, you're now working fairly well together to accomplish a task. That is, until something changes. So, for example, in a marriage, a young couple has gone through these stages and they're rocking along, they're getting through this performing thing pretty well, and then baby number 1 comes along and the process starts all over again because now they're a new team. So each time you add a new member to your planning team or lose someone, you are also going to go back to the beginning of this cycle. Remember that quote I gave you in our last session? You can't be aware of something until first you are aware. Well, when you are aware that you're going to go through these stages of team development each time there's a change in your team, then you can be aware and not be surprised by it. It really will help you to mindfully navigate the process more successfully. There is so much more that I could teach you about personality styles, but that's all we have time for at this time. I do want to let you know that I am including in this week's handout a quick little exercise that you can print off to do with your team that will give you a good clue as to each person's style. It isn't actually an assessment, but it will be a great exercise for your team. As I have said in all of our sessions, we are a blend of all 4 personality styles. Very few of us have only one dominant trait. So for instance, this is my chart that you can see on the screen. I am equal parts D and I at the top of the chart, but I also have a very high C component. But you'll notice that my S is extremely low. All of those factors combined make me uniquely who I am. Most people have 2 traits that are more predominant than the other 2. I want to close today with a story. I grew up in a very performance-oriented home and never really felt like I measured up. So consequently, I didn't have a very good self-image as a young woman. My husband and I attended a Bill Gothard seminar early in our ministry, and I heard him say, to reject the creation is to reject the Creator. I certainly didn't want to be guilty of that. So I became determined to change that in myself. God and I worked on it together, and many years later, one morning as I was sitting on my couch with my Bible and cup of coffee, I was having my quiet time with the Lord, and I said, God, thank you that I have finally gotten to the place where I can accept myself and how you made me. And very clearly, I heard him speak to me in my spirit. And he said, I'm glad that you've learned to accept yourself. But what I really want you to be able to do is celebrate who I made you to be. I said, I don't know what you mean. And God said, do you know what it's like to get socks or underwear for Christmas? You accept them and you're appreciative, but it's not something that you get jumping up and down excited about. Then he said, now think of a time when you got something that you were jumping up and down excited about. That's the way I want you to feel about the way I made you. I sat there for a few minutes and pondered that. And then I said, well, God, if that's what you want, I'm not there yet. So we still have some work to do. And he has been so faithful to do just that. Ladies, you truly are a unique and precious creation of God. And I believe that he wants you to be able to celebrate that. And you know what? When we can celebrate who he made us to be, then we'll be more easily able to celebrate those around us. And we'll be able to appreciate their differences. So celebrate you. And then celebrate your team. Thank you so much for spending this time with us over these last few weeks. And I hope that you have gained a lot from listening, and you will grow in your ability to understand others the more you practice this. So just get out there and practice it and begin to recognize and celebrate the people around you.